I bet you thought the 2024 smartphone release cycle was over, right? Wrong. This phone was one I wasn't planning on covering, but absolutely have to because of so many things that I'm going to get into today. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas and this is the Oppo Find X8 Pro, a phone that I almost overlooked completely, but the more I pick it up and use it, the greater my admiration grows, and actually a phone that I found myself recommending a couple of times already. It also crucially makes me excited not only for the upcoming OnePlus 13's Western release, but other phones in 2025. This is a banger. Let me address one of my favourite things about the X8 Pro, and something that is crucial to me, and that is the design. It doesn't seem like anything crazy or something we haven't seen before. I'm not sure I really love the bigger camera setup here with the individual cutouts. I think I prefer more of just a giant black circle. Also, the knurling around the outside of the thing looks like it should be a dial, but it's not, it's just static, so that's also strange. I'm also not sure on the marble effect, though it is unique, and to be fair, a couple of my friends have given it praise, so that's cool, I guess. No, what I love about this design is that Oppo has managed a flat display, but somehow managed to make it just so much nicer than all the other flat displays. So compared to the OnePlus 12, it is way flatter and should appease many, but it also doesn't compromise on ergonomics by implementing flat sides. These sides are certainly flatter, but they still have a nice curve to them, and both front and back pieces of glass have bevels and curves to make them taper into the side. This is how you do a flat display. Enough of a taper to make swiping in gestures so much more comfortable than a normal flat panel, and curved enough on the back for a nice natural grip without any harsh edges digging in. That also helps the phone, which let's face it is not small by any means, feel a lot easier to hold in the hand than something like the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's a big old thing, which means I can't recommend it to absolutely everyone, but it does well to make as much of its big size as possible. For example, a 5900 mAh battery, yeah, almost 6000 mAh is bonkers, and it's not all about the specs either. This is a 2-day phone for me pretty much every single time, and should be at least a 1-day phone all day for all but the most hardcore of smartphone users. We're talking esports level gamers here. It also supports 80-watt wired charging, which is great, and the charger comes in the box, not just the cable, the brick as well. That's 100% in just under an hour for a 6000 mAh battery, or near enough. Chuck in the 50-watt wireless and 10-watt wireless reverse charging, and you have a battery setup that doesn't just compete with the best of Google, Samsung and Apple, but handily mullers them at it. This phone lasts me longer than my OnePlus 12 does too, and I really praise that phone for its battery setup, but this is tremendous. Also, that display isn't just big, but it gets crazy bright, is nice and sharp at just below Quad HD Plus, and is of course 120Hz as you'd expect. Compared to curved units, every part of it is usable, which is nice, and that makes it excellent for not only playing games and watching long form videos, but also just generally scrolling, day-to-day stuff, the things that most people are doing, doom scrolling, typing messages, that kind of thing. That's what this phone excels at, and it's not only for the big display either. This phone packs in the MediaTek Dimensity 9400, and if you're anything like me, you probably get sort of flashbacks to hearing about MediaTek with terrible, cheap and awful performance characteristics on the chips, but that is not the case with this phone. And it's not just not the case with this phone, it is the opposite. This thing benchmarks between the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, a really fast chip, and the Snapdragon 8 Elite in CPU performance, but the Dimensity 9400's GPU actually beats both. It is unreal. In reality, that doesn't translate to just a really capable gaming phone, but a straight up powerful one. Like, if you're into playing big 3D titles, then the Dimensity is actually the better chip to have over the Snapdragon, which sounds nuts when I say it out loud. This is a properly high-performing smartphone that might not get all the recognition that it deserves out of the gate because it doesn't have the Qualcomm branding. But this camera is just another level. For me, it demolishes what Samsung does in any of its smartphones. That includes the Ultra, although it's not perfect. And see, Oppo decided to put a quick button on the side of it, basically just like the camera control thing from the iPhone. It's a haptic sensor with vibration feedback, and it does very similar things to what the iPhone does. So you can switch different lenses, zoom in and out, you can hold and then press it to take a photo. Like, it's just gimmicky nonsense, and no one should use it, but it's there if you want it. Thankfully, compared to the iPhone, this is actually flush with the rest of the chassis, which I do prefer, so I'll give it that. But that aside, I was astounded by the quality of the cameras. They might not beat the X100 Ultra for me, but they do come really close and surpass what we've become accustomed to on Pixels, Samsungs, iPhones, and even OnePluses over here. Unfortunately, it lacks a proper 1-inch main sensor, but that doesn't stop it from kicking out some serious quality images from its 1 times. It's a 1/1.4-inch setup, so about what you'll find size-wise in a lot of the big flagships over here in the West, but it has the Hasselblad color tuning that I rave about on OnePlus devices. Yeah, that's here too. I love the tones, I love the general aesthetic of this camera setup. It is incredible. The ultra-wide is decent, but nothing special in my opinion. It's a 50 megapixel sensor that's smaller than the ultra-wide you'll find on the OnePlus 12, but it still captures accurate color, detail, and obviously gives you a lot of dynamic range, with that added field of view too. Then there are 2 telephotos on this camera, that's right. The first is a 3x periscope, uses a 50 megapixel, roughly 1/2-inch sensor, and gives you about a 75mm equivalent focal length, which basically translates to a really nice portrait setup that give you that slightly more zoomed in but not crazy long range shot. This is a very high quality 3x, much better than what you'll find on the likes of the Galaxy Ultra, and probably one of my most used lenses on the back of this thing. And the second telephoto is a 6x affair with a 50 megapixel 1/2.5-inch setup that is more usable up to around, let's say, 15 times, with images past this point just slowly degrading in quality. But thanks to the processing, they all do come out sharp with super impressive amount of detail. I'd say past about 20 times though, depending on the lighting conditions of course, you start to run into very artificial looking digital sharpening, but the overall quality is absolutely there. This is a tremendous telephoto. And there's no native 8K video recording support, likely due to the Dimensity chip and not a Qualcomm one. Video also comes out looking very clean at Ultra HD 4K 30 and 60 FPS, rounding out what is really a very impressive camera package. There are also some useful AI features on here like reflection removal that actually works way better than you might expect out of the gate, like the AI unblur. Oppo is stating 5 years of OS updates with a further year of security patches, taking this into 2030 with Android 20 hopefully. That's pretty impressive, though nothing unlike what we'd seen from the competition at this point. Especially when you consider that this phone, not coming to the US by the way, retails for £1,050 to start with. So that firmly puts this thing in sort of ultra phone territory. And you know what? I would probably have this over the S24 Ultra, though you're not getting the S Pen or DeX, which are huge things to a lot of people. I feel like it's worth it, but also I know that not a lot of people are going to opt for something like this just because the name over here in the West isn't as big as something like a Samsung. The Oppo Find X8 Pro is a superb high-end smartphone with some tremendous cameras, solid performance, excellent battery life, and a wonderfully balanced design. It's certainly not perfect with some obvious flaws, but what phone doesn't have those? It might be one of the most surprisingly good and complete smartphone packages this year, and I've added it to my recommendations list. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Are you in the US and not able to buy one? Do you want to buy one? Are you just not excited for it at all? Does this make you excited for the OnePlus 13, which will be coming to the US? Or do you just find the lofty price tag just too much at this point, which I don't blame you. This is competing with the likes of the Vivo X100 Ultra, the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, and of course the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to start a dialogue there. And while you're down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content and subscribe to never miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.